Hello, I'm Marcus T. Anthony. Welcome to Diary of a 21st Century Mystic. This is number 12 in the series, I believe. And just like the last one, this one's coming to you from the rather scenic natural wonderland called Yellowgum National Park, or Yellowgum Reserve, just outside of Melbourne. Actually, this time I'm just sitting on a little hillside here in the bushland. And I'll just give you a little look around here. Nothing particularly special about this place except it's in the middle of nowhere. There's a classic gum tree. They tend to lose their bark in the winter time, although it's actually beginning of March now. And if we move around a little bit here, there's an introduced species, a kind of a pine tree. Some wattle trees over in the distance, and you probably can't see him, but there's actually a rather noisy magpie just in this tree over here. Okay, enough of that. So what am I going to talk about today? I'm just going to talk a little bit about the nature of disappointment and what that means to someone on a mystical journey. And then I'm going to talk a bit about a couple of dreams I had and the importance of finding time in nature, which is why I'm in nature here. If my face looks a little bit shiny, it's because I've got sunscreen on. Okay, let's start off with the idea of disappointment. This week I had two significant disappointments, and I spoke about both of these things in my last video. The first thing was I applied for a position at the Centre of Sustainable Leadership, and each year they take 25 people from Melbourne and they put them on a mentorship program. So the people who are accepted into that program get a chance to work with some very well-established people in Australia in the leadership field in regards to sustainability. So that's something I really wanted to do. But as I mentioned in my last video, I was actually expecting failure in that one. I was expecting to be rejected because, well, logically there was no reason for me to be really rejected. I mean, I've got a pretty good CV in that area. I've done a lot of work. I've run international conferences on future studies. I've published a lot of papers. I've written books, and I give talks. I can speak Chinese, well, reasonably well these days. I've done quite a few things in the area, but I didn't get in for whatever reason. Maybe they thought I was a bit too mystically inclined, or maybe they just had too many candidates which were just simply better than I was. So that was the first disappointment. The second disappointment was slightly more surprising, but not totally, was that Anita Moorjani told me that she wouldn't write the foreword to my new book, The Deepening, The Art of the Art of Unconditional Love. And I just got a message from her assistant saying that she was too busy, which is fair enough. That would have been very, very good for my book, of course, because Anita's well known. If you don't know who Anita Moorjani is, she wrote the book Dying to Be Me, which has been one of the most successful spiritual books on Amazon and in the bookshops this year. And anyway, she said no, so that's that. The reason I wasn't totally surprised is that I did channel her energy. Once or twice in the days before she gave me a response, and the answer I got was, "I'm too busy, sorry." And that's exactly the answer I got in the end. At the beginning I did think there was a pretty good chance she would give me a positive response, but she didn't. So that's what happens sometimes with intuition, is that we can project our own excitement onto something. And that's why the sense of possibility which comes with excitement can be misleading as an intuitive feeling. So we confuse our own expectation and desire with a genuine intuition about whether there's energy on something. That's something that's really important for anyone on a spiritual journey or a mystical journey to understand. And I teach people intuition, so it's it's my responsibility also to tell people when things don't work out, and for me to learn from those things. So the lesson here basically is don't get too attached to your goals, and don't let your excitement overcome you, because then you can end up being very disappointed. I'm not particularly disappointed because I made sure I didn't attach myself too much to those particular goals, and I didn't. So when the disappointment came, all I did was basically allow myself to feel that disappointment, and just return my mind into the present moment. So if you can do that, if you can just return your mind to the present moment, it doesn't really matter what happens in your life, what experiences and what rejections and what failures you've had. You can always just return yourself to the present moment, into the world of the real, which is why being in nature is so important. And I'll talk about that in a moment. Another thing you can do is that if you experience disappointment and it presses your buttons, you can just allow that part of yourself to speak. So if you fail to get what you want, somebody rejects you, maybe someone you asked on a date, maybe your artwork didn't sell, your book didn't get published, you didn't get the promotion you wanted, whatever, and you feel bad about that, you can just take the time out to allow that part of yourself to speak. And oops, there's something about to fall out of the trees here. There's the wind. So the way I do this is I love to come out in nature and channel my energy, which is why trees are so important. For example, if you look at this tree here, it's a rather magnificent tree. If I wanted to, in this moment, I could just speak to that tree if I was feeling disappointment and just tell it how I feel. And that could also involve channeling strong emotions such as disappointment, anger, blame, I hate the world, whatever. And there may be a story that lies behind that. This is a tough world. You know, nobody loves me, nobody wants me, nobody appreciates me. All the things the ego loves to say. And you can just tell that to a tree or a flower. Nature is great for that because nature has no judgment of us. If you tell that to a person, what's going to happen? Well, chances are that the person is going to buy into your story. You go, oh my God, yes, you're right. This world sucks. It's so hard to get a book published. Oh, you'll never sell artwork these days. The market's flat. Or I understand where you're coming from. I feel your pain. Not many people can. Well, not that somebody understanding you is a bad thing. That can be actually quite a healing thing. But the thing is, when we get caught up in the story of that, then that becomes the story. That's what we expect out of life. And those stories are not real. No matter what's happened in your life, the meanings you make out of it, the mythologies you make out of it, they're just patterns that your mind creates. And the ego tends to create negative ones. So if you're moving out into the world, it's not very empowering to believe that the world sucks. There's no opportunities. Nobody cares what I want. If that's the founding story, there goes another branch. If that's your founding story, then it's not very empowering. So what you do is you allow those parts of yourself to speak, and then you move back into the present moment, and then you're back into the world of the real and what's real. Out here in nature, well, where's your story out here? Where is the story? When you're looking at a tree. Or where's the story when you're just looking at a simple clump of grass? Or the sky? Well, there is no story. Not if you're here right now. The story isn't real, so that's what you have to remember about disappointment and failure. Now, it's also true that when you fail at something, you should really look and ask yourself, why did you fail? You've got to be smart about it too. There's no point just saying, oh well, I'll just go back into the present moment and I'll just leave it at that. If you want to become better at what you're doing, then you have to ask yourself, did I make some mistakes? What can I do better next time? Can I ask a different set of questions? Can I approach different people? And is there some way of gaining more information about this field that I'm trying to break into, or about the job I'm trying to get? So, just because you're mystically inclined doesn't mean you can't use your left brain and be smart as well. That's something that's really important. listen to other people, learn from other people, get out into the real world, ask questions, and this will make you a smarter and a better person. And it was a very interesting, I'm going to talk a bit, just to change track a little bit here. I had a very interesting dream a few nights ago, about 3 or 4 nights ago actually. And in this dream I walked outside of my house, and I was on a hill, and I could go up the hill, and if I went up the hill I was heading up into nature, into a place like this. And down the hill was the shopping mall and a coffee shop, which is where I'd spent a lot of my time, especially in Hong Kong. And I had a decision to make. Do I go into the shopping mall, or do I go out and up the hill into nature? And I made a decision to go up the hill. And as I walked up the hill, out above the skyline, suddenly all these rainbows started to break out right across the sky. Not just one rainbow, but rainbow upon rainbow. And right across the sky, just dozens of rainbows. They weren't particularly bright rainbows. They were kind of a faded, slightly subdued rainbow. But it was very beautiful. And as I walked up the hill towards these rainbows, the consciousness of what lay down the hill in that shopping mall became apparent to me. That by spending too much time in that world, coffee shops, inside shopping malls, the artificial environment, it actually takes away from the natural beauty of being present, or being here in the world. And that's why it's really, really important to get out into nature, or just take walks, somewhere where there's a few trees or plants. If you can do that, it's really very, very helpful to the human spirit. It helps you get in touch with something that's very beautiful. And many people today live in a state of trauma because they're cut off from the body and they're cut off from nature. And they don't even quite realize what's going on. And they don't realize because that's all they've ever known. I was on a train going to Melbourne last night from where I am. I live about half an hour out of the city. And very noticeable, most people are spending almost all their time on a mobile device. And there's nothing wrong with that, of course, in moderation. I mean, you're watching this on a mobile device or a computer. But it's all about moderation. You have to take the time to get away from the online world, to get away from the world of disembodiment. Because when you go onto a computer, you become disembodied. You detach from the present, and you go into a state of distraction. So you activate different kinds of intelligence, visual spatial intelligence, maybe a little bit of analytical intelligence, maybe the emotional intelligence if you're surfing a website and discussing something that's of an emotional issue. But you're still pretty much detached from the body. So you must make time for that. Every day, make time to get away from the computer, get away from your mobile device. Even if you're on a train or in a coffee shop, put the mobile device down for a while and just connect with what's around you. Connect with your breath, connect with the body. That's just so crucial if you really want to live in integrity and touch that beautiful part of yourself which allows unconditional love to flow through you. So that's Diary of a 21st Century Mystic. I'll leave it there for today. There's a few thoughts for you. And I don't know what the future's going to bring. The main focus for me is to keep working on what I'm doing. One thing I have noticed, I probably should mention before I go, is that a lot of the things that I'm doing are going to take quite a bit longer than I expected. So this diary project goes till the end of the year. I'm not quite sure what I can achieve before the end of this year, but this is the period of time that I've got to do it. And I hope that I can help you come to a greater understanding of what it is to move out into the world and to try to achieve things and do things at the same time as being able to stay centered within yourself in the modern world. And I look forward to seeing you next time on Diary of a 21st Century Mystic. Bye for now.